November 2021. Elon Musk stands in front of the world, tweeting that $6 billion could solve world hunger. The United Nations had challenged him. The media amplified it. Millions of people waited for his response. And Musk, in his typical fashion, said he'd do it, if they could prove the math. The world saw arrogance. Activists saw cruelty. But Wall Street saw something else entirely, a masterclass in misdirection. Because that same week, while the world debated his Twitter trolling, Elon Musk quietly arranged the largest personal loan in modern history. $13 billion, not to feed the hungry, not to save the planet, to buy Twitter. And he didn't use a single dollar of his own money to do it. This wasn't recklessness, this was precision. Because what Musk did in that moment revealed the fundamental rule that separates billionaires from everyone else. Never spend your own money when you can spend someone else's. And, more importantly, never sell your assets when you can borrow against them forever. Let's rewind to understand how we got here. In 2008, Elon Musk was on the verge of bankruptcy. Tesla was bleeding cash. SpaceX had failed 3 rocket launches in a row. He had $40 million left to his name. And he had to choose, save Tesla or save SpaceX. He split the money between them. Both companies nearly died. And if you ask anyone who lived through that period, they'll tell you the same thing. Musk survived on luck, timing, and government contracts that saved him at the last possible moment. But here's what they won't tell you. Musk learned something in 2008 that would define the next 15 years of his life. He learned that liquidity is everything. Cash is king. And the people who control cash control the game. So when Tesla finally turned profitable in 2013, Musk made a decision that seemed insane at the time. He refused to take a salary. $0. He structured his entire compensation as stock options, tied to impossible performance milestones. If Tesla hit a market cap of $50 billion, he'd get shares. 100 billion, more shares. 600 billion, even more. The media called it visionary leadership. The board called it alignment of interests. But Musk's accountants called it something else. The greatest tax avoidance structure ever created. Because here's the secret that nobody explained to you in economics class. Salary is taxed as income at the highest rate, currently 37% in the United States. But stock is only taxed when you sell it. And if you never sell it, you never pay taxes. It's that simple. And that brutal. By 2021, Elon Musk was the richest person on Earth. His net worth had exploded to over $200 billion. And his salary? Still zero. His cash in the bank? Essentially nothing. Every dollar of his wealth was locked up in Tesla stock, SpaceX equity, and a dozen other ventures. On paper, he was richer than 99.9% of humanity. In practice, he couldn't buy a sandwich without borrowing money to do it. And this is where it gets interesting. Because most people think Musk's wealth is theoretical. They think it doesn't matter because he can't actually spend it. But that's the lie the system wants you to believe. Because Musk can spend it. He just does it in a way that ensures he never pays taxes on a single dollar. Here's how it works. Instead of selling Tesla stock and paying capital gains tax, which would cost him 20% or more, Musk takes out loans using his stock as collateral. Banks line up to give him money. Why? Because Tesla stock is one of the most liquid assets on the planet. If Musk defaults, the bank seizes the shares and sells them instantly. There's no risk for them. And for Musk, the interest rate is absurdly low. 2%, sometimes less. Because when you're worth $200 billion, banks compete to lend to you at rates that would make a mortgage broker weep. So Musk borrows $10 billion at 2% interest. He uses that money to live, to invest, to buy companies, to fund SpaceX missions, to purchase Twitter. And here's the magic. The interest he pays on that loan is tax deductible. He's literally getting paid by the tax system to borrow money. Meanwhile, his Tesla stock continues to appreciate. If it grows at 10% per year, which is conservative for Tesla during its boom years, Musk is making 8% profit on borrowed money after paying interest. And he never triggered a single taxable event. Now imagine you tried to do this. You own a house worth $500,000. You go to a bank and say, "I'd like to borrow $300,000 against my house at 2% interest." The banker laughs at you. You'll get 4% if you're lucky, 6% if your credit isn't perfect. And the interest? Not tax deductible for personal expenses. Because the rules are different for you. They always have been.
But here's where it gets truly insidious. In 2021, ProPublica published a bombshell investigation. They had obtained IRS tax records for the wealthiest Americans spanning decades. And what they found was staggering. Between 2014 and 2018, Elon Musk's wealth increased by $13.9 billion. In that same period, he paid $555 million in federal income taxes. That sounds like a lot. Until you do the math. His effective tax rate was 3.99%, not 37% like a salary would be taxed, not even 20% like capital gains, 3.99%. And in 2018, Elon Musk paid 0 federal income taxes. Nothing. A man worth tens of billions of dollars paid less in taxes than a schoolteacher in Ohio. How? Because he had no income, no salary, no stock sales, just loans. And loans aren't income, they're debt. The IRS doesn't tax debt. So Musk lived like a king, spent like an emperor, and paid taxes like a pauper. But wait, you might say, didn't Musk pay $11 billion in taxes in 2021? Didn't he tweet about it, claiming it was the largest individual tax payment in history? Yes, he did. And it's true. But here's what he didn't tell you. That $11 billion came from a forced stock option exercise. His Tesla options were expiring, and he had to choose exercise them or lose them. So he exercised $15 billion worth of options, paid $11 billion in taxes, and kept $4 billion. It was the first time in years he'd paid significant taxes, and even then, his effective rate on his total wealth accumulation that year was still under 5%. Compare that to you. If you make $60,000 a year, you're paying 22% federal income tax, add in state taxes, payroll taxes, sales taxes, property taxes, and you're easily above 30% of your income going to the government. Musk's wealth increased by $30 billion in 2021. He paid $11 billion. That's 36%. But his wealth had increased by over $100 billion in the prior 2 years, on which he paid nearly nothing. Average it out, and his lifetime effective tax rate is laughably low. This is the architecture of modern wealth. It's not about earning money. It's about appreciating assets and borrowing against them infinitely. The system is designed this way. It rewards patient capital and punishes active labor. If you work for your money, you're taxed heavily and immediately. If your money works for you, you can defer taxes indefinitely. And if you're smart enough, you can defer them forever. But Elon Musk didn't invent this game. He just perfected it. The ultra-wealthy have been doing this for decades. It's called buy, borrow, die. You buy assets that appreciate. You borrow against them to fund your lifestyle. And you die before ever selling them, passing them to your heirs with a stepped-up basis, which means they inherit the assets at current market value and owe zero capital gains on the appreciation that happened during your lifetime. It's a legal tax avoidance loop that has no exit. And it's completely, utterly legal. Now, let's talk about Twitter. In October 2022, Elon Musk completed his purchase of the platform for $44 billion. The deal structure was extraordinary. Musk put up roughly $13 billion of his own equity, though even that was largely borrowed against his other assets. Then he secured $13 billion in bank loans backed by Twitter itself, and he convinced other investors to chip in another $7 billion, the banks lending that $13 billion. They took on massive risk. Twitter's revenue was declining. Advertisers were fleeing. The company had never been consistently profitable, but they lent anyway. Why? Because the banks weren't really lending to Twitter. They were lending to Elon Musk. And Musk's collateral wasn't just Twitter. It was his Tesla shares, his SpaceX equity, his entire empire. If Twitter failed, Musk would cover the losses with his other assets. The banks couldn't lose. And for Musk, the deal was perfect. He got to buy Twitter without liquidating his Tesla position, which would have crashed the stock and cost him tens of billions in value. Instead, he borrowed, maintained his equity, and let Twitter's debt sit on Twitter's balance sheet. And here's the kicker. That $13 billion in debt that Twitter now carries. The interest payments are tax-deductible for the company. So Twitter, which was barely profitable before, is now losing money every quarter, and those losses reduce Musk's overall tax burden across his business empire. He turned a social media company into a tax shelter. And if Twitter eventually fails, he'll write off the loss, claim a capital loss deduction, and reduce his taxes for years to come. Heads he wins, tails he wins. The system is built for people like him. But let's zoom out. Why does this matter? Why should you care that Elon Musk pays a lower effective tax rate than you do? Because every dollar he doesn't pay is a dollar that you have to pay instead. The federal budget doesn't shrink just because billionaires found loopholes. The military still needs funding. Social Security still needs funding. Infrastructure still needs funding. And if the wealthiest people in America are contributing 3% while you're contributing 30%, the system isn't just unfair, it's unsustainable. And it's not just Musk. Jeff Bezos, from 2014 to 2018, saw his wealth increase by $99 billion. He paid $973 million in taxes. Effective rate 1%. Warren Buffett, the man who publicly advocates for higher taxes on the rich, paid an effective rate of 0.1% over the same period. Michael Bloomberg, 1.3%. The average American, 22%. The system isn't broken. It's functioning exactly as designed. And the people who designed it are the same people who benefit from it. So, what's the lesson here? Should you try to replicate Musk's strategy? Can you? The answer is no, unless you're already wealthy. The buy, borrow, die strategy only works if you have assets worth borrowing against. If you own $1 million in stock, you can borrow against it. But you're not getting 2% interest. You're getting 6 or 7%. And your stock isn't Tesla. It's not going to appreciate at 10% per year. It might go up. It might go down. And if it goes down, the bank will margin call you, force you to sell at a loss, and you'll be wiped out. The game is rigged from the start. Access to cheap credit is reserved for people who don't need it. Tax advantages are structured to benefit people who already have wealth. And the financial advice given to ordinary people, save 10%, invest in index funds, be patient, is designed to keep you in the middle class, working until you're 65, retiring with just enough to survive. It's not designed to make you wealthy, because if everyone became wealthy, the system would collapse. Wealth requires scarcity, and scarcity requires that most people stay exactly where they are. Elon Musk didn't get rich by working harder than you. He got rich by understanding the rules of the game and playing by a completely different set of them. He leveraged debt when you were told to avoid it. He held assets when you were told to diversify. He deferred taxes when you were told to pay your fair share. And the result? He's worth over $200 billion and pays less in taxes as a percentage of wealth than a nurse, a teacher, or a construction worker. The uncomfortable truth is this: the financial system is not designed to help you build generational wealth. It's designed to extract wealth from labor and concentrate it in capital. And the people at the top will never tell you how they did it, because the moment everyone knows the rules, the game ends. So they write books about hustle and discipline. They give speeches about innovation and risk-taking. They tell you to work hard, save money, and invest wisely. And while you're doing that, they're borrowing billions at 2%, deferring taxes indefinitely, and compounding wealth at rates you'll never access. Elon Musk's $13 billion loan wasn't a financial risk. It was a declaration, a message to everyone paying attention. The message was simple. The rules don't apply to us. They never did, and they never will. Because we didn't just learn how to play the game, we bought the casino.